Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of First Person, a production of PressProsMagazine.com and sponsored by the Bruns Realty Group in Troy and Tip City. 65 years of experience in residential and commercial real estate. Call Bruns for your next move. They'll help you make it the right one. We're in Marion Local, at Marion Local High School this morning, the site of the reigning Division VI state champions for the 9th time last December the 2nd. Tim Goodwin is my guest, the head coach of the Flyers, and a frequent guest on this program because I think this makes either 4 or 5 times, and today on the literal anniversary of Press Pros Magazine. It was 7 years ago today, and you said it wouldn't last.
You know, I'm not right all the time, Sonny. But I usually do share my opinions. So.
That's why we get along. Your 9th title last year, and it's a significant achievement over 18 years. We've certainly talked about that, but the thing that I want to talk a little bit about is the fact that somebody mentioned to me recently that you guys have won all different kinds of ways. You've had blowouts, you've had nail biters, you've had games where you played perfectly and games where you won while playing imperfectly. And last year was an example of that, how you just had the resolve or that certain it factor to overcome a second half less than what you wanted to play.
Yeah, looking back on that, we were happy at halftime. Maybe our kids aren't used to us being happy at halftime. I don't know, but for whatever reason, Heights played better. I think we ended up with 4 turnovers in the game, so we were fortunate, to come out on top. But our kids, we could always count on one thing from a Marion local kid, and they're just going to keep playing. They're going to keep playing no matter what's going on. That's what they did.
Tim, I want to also talk about something. We have talked a lot in the last month with football coaches from a lot of places around the state, particularly from Columbus south toward the river, and a lot of people recognize what Marion has done since 2000, and that very fact of having won so many different ways. They call it the it factor, and one coach said to me the other day, we've got talented kids, but if we ever teach them how to win. That's a well-worn cliche in sports. You got to learn at some point how to win. You can't do it for them necessarily, but there is that certain it factor, and it's certainly shown all over your program in the last 18 years.
And just to get it started with, you got to get over that hump. You got to get the kids to believe, and luckily for me, my first game that I coached at Marion Local was a double overtime win over Versailles, and at that time, they were in the midst of winning 6 titles with Al, and so that really jump started the trust factor between the players and myself and the rest of the coaches. But Sonny, we spend a lot of time, starting right from the start of teaching and grading our kids on kind of the Marion Local way. And just whenever a situation comes up, no matter what it really involves, we'll stop and we'll talk about, now here's what the kids in the past have done with this situation. Here's what we expect you to do, and it can go away, and talent obviously has to be there. I mean, let's be honest, but the expectations and the belief can go away. So we spend a lot of time on culture. Graduation
is part of high school. You can't redshirt people, and every year you and Chip Otten and the other coaches in this area, Garen Stokes for instance, won a title in 14, was a finalist last year. Got to make significant replacements. You have to do that again this year. Your own son's going out of your secondary, Jack Holman, Dwayne Ligers, and people like that move on. You've been able to always have that replacement at hand, and I know people are out there this year wanting to know, do you have replacements at hand?
Well, I don't know yet. Obviously we got kids in the spots. It's going to be different, for sure. We lost 20 seniors off of last year, and really, I would say 18 or 19 of them contributed significantly.
Playmakers.
Yeah, and so that's different. So we just got done watching film with the team of our first scrimmage, and we had a whole room full of kids. That was the first time they've been with the varsity coaches watching film and just knowing, how perfect we expect everything to be. And I'm sure in the back of their minds, like, Coach, we just gained 6 yards on that play. But every coach was back there peppering their position groups with, things they could do better. So it'll be a process. I think at some point we could be a good team. But we start out with a very good CJ team that's very veteran, and I think this is the team they've been waiting on for a while. Then we go to a perennial power and Patrick Henry. Then we have Coldwater. Then we have Minster. So there's just no time for us to get through those rough spots in terms of losing in the playoffs.
That's a good first month's work. I want to talk a little bit about John Dirksen back. That's a signal. You lost. Talk about the people you lost. How about the people you gained? John back from the broken leg last year, obviously a pillar of your football team, and the coach Marcus Colvin at CJ last year, a young man whom he called the best football player on the field, period. So John's back.
John is back, and that's a good place to start for us. He looks really good. We haven't seen any remnants of that leg injury from last year. So at our level, we got a kid that's a BCS kid, so he's going to stand out. But on top of that, John's just a great kid. Just a great kid. I think you talk to anyone in our community, and they all say the same thing about John. Great family, just people, just great people, and so I expect him to be a phenomenal leader this year. Not only do I expect him to dominate on the field, I expect him to be that kind of leader, that elite leader, really that Jason Brunswick we had in 2013 was an elite leader, and now he's in the military. He's going to be a great person for our country, Jason Brunswick, and John Dirksen is the same type of kid.
You've been at this a long time. You've had a lot of success, and about the 20-year mark, people start to say, "How long can you do this?" This is year 19, I think, coming up for you. If you look down that road far enough, you have to say, "Well, maybe I'd like to win 1 or 2 or 3." I think the all-time record is 12. How much more football do you see for yourself?
That's a good question, and that's a question that seems to come up a little bit more each year. I still feel good. People, you mentioned my son graduating off of last year's team, and that was a special year for myself. But I don't notice any difference, in my excitement level and so forth. So I don't know. I'm not going to do it when I don't want to put the time in to do it right. I think every coach says that. You don't want to do this if you're not willing to do, the stuff, from January through June, or even through August. We all love Friday nights, but every year it gets a little tougher in some aspects of coaching, but who knows? Because
it is Marion local and Tim Goodwin, a lot of people are going to be watching this from across the state that are football fans and diehards and want to know exactly about the Flyers. You just heard it from the coach himself. We appreciate your time. Important to stay healthy, but best of luck this year, and thanks for everything you do for us.
Thanks a lot, Sonny. We appreciate all your great coverage of the MAC and all of our kids.
You guys make it fun. Tim Goodwin, our guest this week, and that wraps up this edition of First Person, again sponsored by the Bruns Realty Group in Miami County. They're in Troy and Tip City. Call Bruns Realty for your next move, commercial or residential. They'll make it the right one. Again, as we always say, thank you for your support of what we do on PressProsMagazine.com. Looking forward to a great 2017 high school football season and another edition coming up for First Person. See you then.